Hey, my name is Noel Cottrell, and this is my creative perspective. I just want to say thank you to Kevin and the team at the Wine Club for inviting me. It's somewhat intimidating. If you've met me in person, I'm pretty affable, normal, down-to-earth guy, but on camera, pretty robotic and say I'm a lot. So I apologize in advance. So just the first thing was just to talk a little bit about my creative process. And what I thought was, it's kind of, again, going back and looking at John Haggerty and a couple of these other people, they're like, what is it? I must have a creative process. But the more I looked into it, the more I realized I don't actually have a creative process. My creative process is starting fresh every single time. And then I thought, if what everyone's been talking about a little bit are the kind of the rules of advertising and the rules of like what you have to follow and what you have to do, I just thought, what if I just try and use some of my work that I've done in the past to kind of debunk some of those myths and rules, I guess. I know it's a global audience. Apparently the US is fourth in viewership. So some of the work I'm going to be talking about you've never heard of because it's American. So it is on my website at noelcottrell.com. And that is not a plug. It is a plug for the Wine Club though. Anyway, so just to talk a little bit about it. So I'm going to go through some of the rules. First rule, the CCO should stay out of the work. CCO shouldn't take the briefs from the teams and work on them. When I moved from South Africa to the US, I worked with Tom Myron, who was my boss. And I was, I believe, his first employee at Grey Advertising in New York. And when I spent some time with Tor, I very quickly realized that not only was he involved in the work, like he was the work. And a lot of the time he was deep in there. I mean, talk about that E-Trade Talking Baby work, the Super Bowl work. Benny, the one kid, was Tor's voice. I'll never forget just him being down there working with Randy Krollman. Randy was the director, and Tor was deep in that work. And he was like, he'd be like sending me voice files, and I just arrived from South Africa, and I was like, what the heck? This guy's so deep in the work. But I learned a lot from that, and I really enjoyed that. The second kind of like rule or chestnut that people talk about a lot is, great work should sell itself. And while that's great, I'm sure it could. Hasn't necessarily been my experience, particularly not in the US. I will say that the example I'm going to use is the Febreze blindfold campaign. When I arrived at Febreze, or working on Febreze for Procter & Gamble, I'd just come off E-Trade, and I'll admit to being a little not that excited about working on Procter and Febreze. And when I was getting onboarded, I'll never forget the wonderful client telling me that, this has got to happen. The color scheme in the ads need to be both a breath of fresh air. And when you spray, you've got to spray in an arc over you. And as the Febreze falls onto you, you've got to take a deep inhale and a happy exhale. So, when we first proposed that work, the work for Febreze, the blindfold campaign, and we were putting people in these disgusting scenarios, there was not a lot of appetite for it. And to Grey's credit, they put money behind it, shot 3 commercials and ran them in a test market, and they did very well in the test market. And then they went on and won a whole bunch of awards, and Procter was, hey, hold on, let's test this around the world. And it ran globally and was an enormous success. But there was nothing easy about selling that work. I was thinking about that. And then, there's nothing like a great brief to get to great work, talking about like, got to really intimidate the brief and get the brief perfect. Our Coke 1000 Songs campaign was anything but. The original brief came in, it was very simple. The brief was, looking for one 30-second radio commercial to say there are now 1,000 names on Coke cans. So Sherman and James, the team, came to me and they were like, we're going to do a song for every single name on every single Coke can. And I remember presenting that back to the client and them going, the brief is, literally, you've seen the brief, we've got $15,000. And, between David Birddog and that team and an amazing client, Kate Santor, literally just got it done for for $15,000, maybe $30,000 by the end of it, but did a lot of that work offshore. But the brief, sometimes like great work can come off absolutely any brief. So don't be intimidated by just a small piece of paper that has something not so great written on it. Celebrities get a bad rap. I mean, I came from South Africa, and we just thought that celebrities were just a cop out. Like the Americans, you see ads like, oh my God, every ad's got $1 million celebrity in it. And looking back at that the rule is like try and steer clear of celebrities, try and come up with a concept first. And if I look at that, I just think to myself that two of the pieces of work that I'm proudest of, Rick Ross Buy Back the Block work, and Pete Davidson for Smartwater, had celebrities that really were really just perfect for that campaign, for those campaigns. And Rick Ross, if I look back at that, was just we sold him a franchise, and he released a hit, and with Buy Back the Block, and then got re-released with like Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace Nipsey, and it's just was a huge hit, like Rolling Stone, everything, and won a cultural driver pencil at one show. And it was just a huge hit, and it couldn't have been done with anyone else. And he went to that Checkers and Rallies in Miami when he was a kid at school, and he told that story, and it was just beautifully done. And even if I look at Pete and following in the footsteps of Jen Aniston and Gal Gadot, like that work was like that celebrity was the perfect celebrity for that moment in time. And I think that celebrities get a bad rap. If you can find the right person, they can get that message across. If I remember that great Jeep ad, didn't do it. It had nothing to do with it. But the Jeep ad with Groundhog Day, that was just that couldn't have been done with anyone else either. Like just some great work. So the other thing is just great credit should come easily. If you're having fun on the brand, it'll show in the work. I would argue a team like the Wendy's team is one of the hardest working teams in showbiz / advertising. That team puts a lot of work in. You see something like National Roast Day, you don't realize how much work is behind that work. And it's not just the agency team, it's the client team as well. Just a lot of hard work to get to great funny ads that, or a one-liner tweet to, when Meta rebranded as Meet, it's Wendy rebranded as Meet, when Facebook rebranded as Meta. That's a lot of thinking, that's a lot of work, that's a lot of great teamwork. Anyway, so when I look at all that work, and I think, there shouldn't be any rules, there definitely are some commonalities. And what I think is interesting, if I look at each of those, the reason they worked, the reason they were bust-out hits for the clients, was that there was an element of creative chaos. It came into a category and just really caused chaos. I mean, if I look at, Ari and Steve's original script with the vomiting baby for the Super Bowl ad for E-Trade, that work would, just in the finance category, or Febreze again with the, housewives and house husbands dumpster diving and, with blindfolds on. It was just it caused creative chaos. It reminds me a little bit of these bad boys. Remember these at the beginning of the pandemic? We had murder hornets. They caused some, not necessarily creative chaos, but some chaos, and got a lot of buzz and PR. So excuse the horrible pun there. But anyway, just the commonality for me across the work is just bust out creative work in a category that just totally disrupted and worked for the client and really did a lot of good stuff for that. So, to me, discomfort is the category, is the catalyst for growth. Discomfort is what you grow from. And if you're ever sitting in a meeting and it's comfortable and you're selling work that feels comfortable and that feels right, and there's a good chance you're not going to look back on it fondly and with any kind of passion. So anyway, that's my creative perspective. My creative perspective is there is no secret sauce. You got to come into each one and look at it differently and play it differently. And anyone who tries to write up some rules, most of those rules can be disproven with some fun work. And so thanks again. Thanks for taking these 9 minutes to listen to my creative perspective, or lack of one. And thank you to my friends at the One Club, Kevin Swanepoel, and all the great people who do such great work. Thank you.